Today was an exciting day. Managed to get a lot done. I kind of dashed out of the house as soon as I woke up, primarily because this was the only sunny day where we could actually see the sun. And I remember waking up and like the sun being out there, and I was like, yes, I gotta get out and kind of do something out. I pretty much walked around the lake today, ended up at the Mountain View Lodge, and kind of spent like 6 hours there just sitting down and writing and reading and doing all the things that I'm doing right now in this Think Week. So yesterday was primarily about 10-year futures, and 10-year futures was entirely about looking at what's in the labs, what's on trials right now, where's the money, what startups are being founded, and kind of seeing the most exciting spaces out there. And I ended up with, I believe, 12 individual areas which I thought were doing extremely well. So if you haven't seen that video, I'm sure I've already posted it by now, so definitely check it out, or I'll link it somewhere above. Today was entirely about 1-year futures. And relative to yesterday, or rather unlike yesterday, where the focus was entirely about technology, the focus today was about people. Because if you want to see what's happening in the world right now, and what trends are going to reshape society, you kind of have to understand where consumer behavior is heading and how people are responding and reacting to things that have already been rolled out, that are in the hands of people. So instead of looking at it entirely from a technology perspective, I was looking at just consumer behavior and where culture is actually heading. So similar to yesterday, I'll just give you the top highlights of each of these areas. So the first one is this thing that I call emergence of new kinds of startups. So if you've seen, or if you've been following some incredible startups like Notion, Figma, Superhuman, even Basecamp, which has been around for quite some time, what we're seeing is this emergence of some incredible ideas. But the way that they're approaching these ideas is they're taking their time. They're I wouldn't say they're extremely slow, but they're very conscious and mindful about finding the right product market fit, taking their time to become profitable early on in the process rather than waiting for years down the line and even sometimes post IPO. And we're beginning to see these companies take a very different approach to how these companies are being born. So the focus is on keeping the team small, keeping the talent incredible right from the get-go, focusing on remote work and allowing people to live lives beyond just the crazy amounts of work that people are used to when they're working for a high-growth company. And all of this is relative to companies like WeWork and Uber, where when they started, the entire focus was all about scale and monopoly and marketing and distributing your brand and growing in many, many different geographies. So what we're beginning to see is the model that we've invested in all along, which is the Ubers and the WeWorks, it's kind of been flipped on its head, where you have companies that are smaller, take care of their people, focus on an incredible product, and then scale through that, and are profitable sooner. So that's what I call the emergence of new kinds of startups. And what that's allowing to do is it's introducing the second big thing, which I call emergence of a nice leader. Again, looking at Nikhil Vora at Superhuman, and looking at Ivan at Notion, and people that lead Figma, you're seeing people who are a whole lot more serious about the people and the people that they lead. So if you've been following news about what's happening with Adam Newman, or even Travis Kalanick back in the days, even Steph Curry very recently at Away, where you've had VCs and management boards endorse leadership styles that frankly aren't very sustainable in the long run. And you're seeing what's happened, where many CEOs have kind of been fired and let go and have been asked to step back and allow the more mature individual. And also exciting news is when you look at the CEOs that are extremely successful right now, Sundar Pichai, who's frankly taken over the realms from Larry and Sergey. Those two could have found some of the other people at Google who would kind of fit the mold of CEO. And Sundar, who's been doing a phenomenal job at Google, kind of isn't what you would consider as a CEO when you look at it from their perspective, but is an extremely essential individual because of his ability to lead the company despite the chaos right now with the political climate and just the sheer internal struggles that they have as a culture. Satya Nadella is another great example, right? Not a flamboyant CEO at all, extremely humble, extremely down to earth. Shantanu Narayan from Adobe, you're beginning to see some incredible people who are nice at their hearts and allow other people to actually step in and lead and help grow through that lens. Is the age of that flamboyant entrepreneur and that CEO is kind of like dying, which I'm excited about because that's the kind of leadership style that I completely gravitate towards. The third one is rethinking the value of work. When you look at how Slack has destroyed work, and again, if you look at the Away, the Verge report, it's beginning to show that the always on work culture or the always plugged in work culture isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable for human beings, for us to constantly be plugged into work irrespective of the time or the day. And it's beginning to show where these cultures are actually breaking fundamentally and in a large scale. So the idea is, how do you reshape the approach that people take to work? So Microsoft kind of experimented this, I believe, in Japan, the 4-day work week. Again, not ideas that are brand new. These ideas have been around for a long time, and countries like Sweden kind of exercise this. And what's beginning to happen is some really big companies are taking note that sitting at a desk for close to 9 hours every single day isn't something that people want to do. Being able to work remotely and being able to take time off when unlimited vacation and stuff like that. What we're beginning to see is people questioning the purpose of work at large, and what that's going to lead is entirely new range of workspace benefits, right? If you look at the Google days where you'd get free food and laundry and all of that good stuff, it's shifting towards a brand new kind of a benefit at work where employees get time back, and employers have to kind of address some of these individual things. Then you have mental health and its importance. I feel like throughout the history of work, something as integral as mental health has always been dismissed, and it's always been looked down, and now companies and employers are being forced into having conversations, and I don't believe any of them are ready yet. I'd actually be surprised if anybody is, because what you don't want to happen is individuals getting targeted for sharing too much with their employer, and then some of that very, very private and personal information that gets shared with HR and with your direct supervisor ends up affecting and impacting your career in negative ways, because you don't want that to happen, because these are very real things that people kind of struggle with. So what I feel is managers right now are kind of going to be tested in how do you deal with an employee that is kind of struggling at work due to reasons that is beyond their control, and how do you keep them motivated, and how do you support them. And I feel like, again, we're going to see a brand new kind of an approach to dealing with people and making sure that you're empathetic about it, but also genuinely and authentically supportive of their mental health. And I feel like mental health is going to be a very big area, at least this year and hopefully in the next couple of years. The next one is digital well-being and its importance. I feel like big tech companies like Apple and Google have done, or at least have started in that direction, but I feel like we're nowhere close to where we should be. So when you look at Facebook and Twitter, which are kind of incentivized by the sheer engagement and the clicks that they drive, or rather have been driven on the platform, those fundamental vectors have to be shifted, and somebody in the top 5 big tech companies is going to have to take a stand. I think Instagram very recently has been experimenting in removing likes, and I think that is a trend that hopefully everybody picks up. But I feel like this bottomless newsfeed idea should kind of be disrupted, and people should actually, or at least designers who are designing these platforms should go back and question the integrity of their design if all the design is intended to do is increase engagement and increase clicks. So I feel like there are some new patterns, and there's an opportunity for new patterns to emerge through some of these incredible ideas, and it's just a matter of time when that happens. The sixth one is active education of fake news. And while I feel like developed countries like the United Kingdom and United States are slightly more better off, the struggle is when you look at countries like India, where digital literacy in the general population is a lot less. So when they see something forwarded to them on WhatsApp, or when they see something on Facebook, they don't have the ability to recognize the authenticity of that information. And I see that with even just with my parents and my in-laws and just extended family, who, when they receive a certain piece of information, they're not even questioning the validity of that information. And I feel like companies should start looking at not just rolling out what's working in North America and the United Kingdom throughout the entire world in slightly more underdeveloped and developing countries, but also address how these design patterns would go back and influence how this general population is actually receiving this information. Because there were so many articles about on New York Times and whatnot about just how much these design decisions are going back and impacting the day-to-day lives and the political climates of some of these countries. And I feel like the ability to recognize fake news and educating users, irrespective of where they are, the authenticity and the validity of that piece of content is extremely important. The seventh one is every company, I believe, should and will soon be taking a political stance. Be it the climate change stance, gun control, or politics, or just general bullying or policies that Congress is rolling out, or even just working with Pentagon. You're seeing where Microsoft employees are kind of hesitating towards Microsoft's relationship to the $10 billion contract that Microsoft has just signed with Azure and the Pentagon. And I do feel like companies and leaders around the world will be forced to take this political stance in the next couple of years. And as the younger population, the Gen Zs, enter the workforce, this is going to become even more crucial, and we'll start seeing that actually happen from next year. The eighth one is continuous learning outcomes, or rather continuous learning that is measured through outcomes, where employees actually are participating in their constant learning through just a growth mindset in picking up new skills and applying those skills to work. So what I feel is going to happen, which is extremely essential given how rapidly technology is actually changing, is employers are going to be forced to make sure that they have learning programs at scale for their employees, which are serious in so many shapes and forms, that it's going to be extremely important to not just provide these platforms and opportunities for your employees to learn, but also measure their learning ability and their learning progress, and kind of incentivize them in some shape or form. I also do believe that it's not just important to give them access to these platforms, but you also have, as an employer, also have to give them time to actually pick up the skills. Because if you still expect them to do 8 and 9 hours of work every single day, and then also expect them to pick up skills in Python and data science, it's not going to happen, because the employee is not incentivized to do so. And I feel like platforms like Udacity, which I personally use and love and enjoy, are going to become the sure benchmark of how a really serious, up-to-date curriculum about what's happening in the industry is acquired and applied directly into the workforce. The ninth one is what I call the private social. I feel like we've gone through, I believe, a decade now, although the decade's not ending. Let me remind you that the decade ends in 2020 and the new decade begins on Jan 1st, 2021. What I'm beginning to see is social networks that are not entirely open. So when you look at Twitter and Facebook, which are on the extreme opposite end, you're seeing smaller networks where people form their individual groups and have discussions about certain things. So you probably have a friend group on iMessages, and everything gets shared through that rather on Facebook or Instagram. There's this new app and this platform that was started by ex-Facebook employees called Cocoon, where you as a family can use one single platform, and entirely everything about your family gets shared on that platform. And it's exciting to see stuff like this, as long as the intention is genuine and as long as what they're trying to do has the right approach and the right business model, because you don't want to end up becoming another Facebook. So I would personally rather end up paying than having to be targeted with ads and so on and so forth with my family, and have my entire family use that one single platform. So what I believe is going to happen is everybody is going to have these smaller groups and conversations around these individual groups. And I think Facebook has already recognized this, which is why they're portraying Facebook as a platform where you celebrate identities and groups and the things that you love doing together. So I feel like the concept of open social is going to completely be switched on its head, and it's going to become private social. I also know so many families that run their entire family engagement and connectivity and entirely via Slack. So what we're beginning to see is this smaller closed networks that are going to be formed. The last one is remote work, and I feel like this is essential because the last 3 years we've seen some amazing companies like Envision kind of do this at scale, where about 800 to 1,000 employees are entirely remote, working entirely remotely, enjoying their lives. If you look at the craziness that's happening in San Francisco, where it's incredibly hard and expensive and not sustainable for any individual to kind of live that quality of life. And pretty much everybody that I know, at least this year, 20 of my friends have actually left San Francisco for other cities like New York and Austin and Pittsburgh, or LA. And this is something that I feel is going to become extremely dominant in the next couple of years, because even though you have people leaving San Francisco, they are going back to other cities that are beginning to become tech hubs. And I feel like even companies like Apple and Google recognize that, Amazon recognizes that, which is why they're creating companies outside of their home bases, primarily because talent is leaving in droves. So what I feel is every company needs to take that a step further and kind of make their entire companies entirely remote and distributed, because I feel like the quality of life compared to just where the talent is heading, and some of the most incredibly talented people that I know want to move to Hawaii and work out of Hawaii, where Hawaii is never considered as a tech hub. So all in the favor of a much better quality of life, all in the favor of the things that they like to do, the environment that they like to live. So somebody likes to bike every single day, somebody likes to live near trails or swim, and I feel like that is extremely important if we're going to increase the general quality of life, where people are allowed to prioritize other things and not just work. So that was pretty much the 10 things that I looked at today. And again, it was entirely looked at from the perspective of the changes that we're seeing in society right now, the changes that I see my network personally talk about so incredibly passionately, that is beginning to come back and affect just how companies are beginning to scale and what's happening in the world of technology. So you have these two very, very drastic perspectives, where you have these 10-year futures and bioengineering and cyborg engineering and cheating death, and all the way to exactly what's happening now. And my idea is to try and blend these two and then kind of see really what trends are being shaped right now, and how are we going to make our way towards these 10-year futures. I also spent some time looking at which individuals specifically are doing great work within the industry by focusing on the teams in across the world that are solving some incredible problems, and which I believe is just going to help in casual networking and catching up with these amazing individuals, and talking to them about the work that they're doing, and talking to them about how they're living their lives, because I think it's interesting to see different perspectives about how people go about solving these incredible challenges on a day-to-day basis. So that was pretty much it. I had a very relaxed day today. I'm glad I went out of this cabin. I feel like going outside and spending some time outside, despite how incredibly cold it is. I believe it's like -6 degrees Celsius right now. I really enjoyed spending my time outside today and taking a long walk for about 4 miles, and then parking myself at the mountain lodge, sitting down and writing some of these individual things that I was thinking about in my head. So yeah, that kind of wraps up day 3, I believe. It's actually day 4, but day 3 on the agenda. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and tomorrow is entirely about craft and what tangible skills do I personally need, but also do I see that people in the industry, designers and technologists and leaders need to pick up in order to keep themselves sustainable and relevant in all this craziness that's happening in the world right now. So that's it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to maybe watch a movie before I sleep. But that was the wrap for today, and thank you for joining me, and thank you for watching these videos. If you like them, please like the video down, hit that button, and share the love. And again, if you have comments, because this is a dialogue and I would love to have a dialogue, share your comments with me, and I'd love to answer any of your questions. And again, if you see something that I have missed in my list, please feel free to share your perspectives, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. So until the next video, or at least until tomorrow, good night and have a nice life. No, I should be saying that. Well, you should have a nice life, but have a wonderful, wonderful day. And be nice to everybody. It's not that hard. Follow amazing leaders and do amazing work in life. So you can say it's getting really late. Okay, bye.